Morning, I thought I'd read you a piece from my second adult novel, Memories Can Play Tricks. Prompted to do so because somebody sent me a newspaper article about the attempted assassination of my grandfather in 1910, um, which actually nearly killed my grandmother. They were large landowners in the west of Ireland, County Clare, and he was a land commissioner. So here I obviously can't rely on personal experience, but I'm basing it on what I knew about my grandmother. Excuse me, my grandmother. So anyway, here we go. They had intended to spend a quiet evening, as this was their first night in Willbrook. Fran's brother, Jack, was with them, as he'd been looking after the place while they were on honeymoon. Just as they were about to go to bed, he asked Fran to play something on the piano to round off the evening, he said. Fran yawned delicately. It's been a long day. I thought the train journey would never end. A little bit of Schumann will soothe our souls, Tom said, smiling. Fran shrugged and smiled back. Well, I can't disappoint you both, can I? With that, she went to the piano. Fran smoothed the brown and silk skirt of her dress before settling on the piano stool. She smiled over her shoulder at her husband, noticing the smoke of his cigar curling lazily in the warm air coming in through the open window. A cow lowed in a nearby meadow. Turning back to the piano keyboard, she applied herself to the music. She was in the middle of a difficult allegro, her concentration totally given to the music, when the sound of shattering glass and something fiery whizzed past her neck, startling her. Automatically, she touched the burning spot. What in God's name was that? Tom looked around the room as if searching for something that would provide an answer. Douse the lights, Jack yelled. Somebody's shooting at us. With a puzzled expression on her face, Fran stared at the bullet embedded in the piano. Then, suddenly feeling faint, she laid her hands on the keyboard for support. The next thing she knew, Tom was pulling her off the piano stool and pushing her down behind the sofa. Stay there, he ordered. More shots rang out as Tom yelled for his old retainer. The sight of Mick rushing in with an armload of guns revived her. Angry now, she grabbed one of them and ran towards the window. What in God's name are you doing? Tom roared at her. You don't know how to shoot. Jack was roaring at her too. But the O'Brien blood was up. At least I can frighten them, Fran shouted back defiantly as she shot at the shadowy figures that were barely distinguishable from the trees in the fading light. Jack dragged her back from the window, but just before a rock shattered its remaining glass, the rapid exchange of gunfire was followed by a deadly silence. They must have run out of bullets, Tom said with grim satisfaction. I think we've run them off, sir, Mick said. We'd better be on the safe side. With that, Jack ran to lock the hall door while the others started to barricade themselves in the drawing room. I'm damn sure I recognized one of them, Jack was muttering under his when he returned. Impossible in this light, said Tom. I've seen him before, I tell you. He had a limp. I noticed a man with a limp in the village just the other day. Tom's eyes narrowed. What? A limp, you say? Why, I know that man, he said. At least, I think I do. Then pay him a visit tomorrow, Fran hissed through clenched teeth. Calm down, my dear. Tom put a hand on her shoulder, but she shook it off. Calm myself down when I've been shot by one of my own countrymen? We're not absentee landlords. No, she pushed Tom away. You've no right to do this. They have no right to do this to me. There's trouble in every county in Ireland, and none of it aimed directly at you, my dear, Tom said. The sharpness of his tone surprised her. That man must know I'm an O'Brien from Lishnashee, she complained stoutly. Tom looked at Jack, who shrugged. Do neither of you intend to do anything? Demanded Fran, her temper rising again to the fore. We'll take care of it first thing tomorrow. Don't worry, Jem, Jack said, patting her on the shoulder. You'd better, she retorted. And Tom, leave Mick with me. Next morning, Fran belligerents evacuated as she sat for 2 hours by the boarded-up window waiting for Tom and Jack to return. Even though Mick didn't leave her side for one moment, she still was fearful for another attack. And so time passed unbearably slowly. Fran breathed a sigh of relief when she heard the horses gallop into the courtyard. Jack's loud laughter, however, caused her eyes to widen. What happened? What happened? She cried as she ran outdoors to meet them. Mass was short this morning. Father Moriarty said it in a rush, Jack said between guffaws. He had no one to serve him. Fran felt like boxing his ears. You went to Mass? She demanded incredulously. What in God's name made you do that? We went to Mass afterwards to show our faces, Tom said calmly. The verger, who usually serves at 9 o'clock Mass, was indisposed, added Jack. I'm not interested in the verger, she shouted. What is he to me? He has a bullet in the backside from last night, Jack replied, smiling. His head is sore too, since our visit to his house this morning. Looking at her puzzled face, Jack broke into renewed laughter. He was the man who led the attack last night, my dear, Tom explained. He's the one with the limp, you see. Fran sank against the hall door, dizzy with relief. I've done some thinking to the conclusion we better sell Willbrook. Actually, in real life, my grandparents did sell their estate in County Clare and moved to Dublin. This is why I'm a Dubliner. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.